Sometimes in life, we find ourselves sacrificing too much for someone we deeply love and care for. We go above and beyond to meet their needs, only to be met with betrayal when they achieve their desires. They take advantage of our kindness, acting carefully when they need us, but the moment they get what they want, they vanish like a bird flying away in an instant. But did you know that you can change this dynamic and take control of the situation? By avoiding these 7 behaviors, you can see immediate results and regain your power. Let's discover it together right now. First, don't destroy your own life by becoming overly dependent on someone else. Allowing your life to revolve around someone else is like a satellite trapped in orbit. You lose sight of your own goals and individuality. When you focus too much on another person, your aspirations fade, and their needs overshadow yours. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that he who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe. Obsessing over someone disrupts your harmony and diminishes your light. It's time to shine your own sun, break free from their orbit, and light up your own path. Your life is not a support act for someone else's show. You are the headline act in your own story. Let's take a moment to reflect on a situation that many of us, at some point, find ourselves in. Imagine you're standing in the middle of a field, a place that represents your life's potential, filled with opportunities, dreams, and aspirations. The sun is shining, and all around you, the world is vibrant with possibilities. But instead of exploring this vast field, you find yourself tethered to a single point, orbiting someone else's world, like a satellite caught in their gravitational pull. You're circling their life, revolving around their needs, desires, and expectations, while your own dreams fade into the background. Now, this might not happen all at once. Often, it begins subtly. You meet someone who captivates your attention. Perhaps they seem to complete you, fill a void, or bring a sense of excitement. You start to spend more time with them, thinking about them constantly, and before you know it, your life begins to revolve around theirs. It's as if you've taken your own aspirations and set them aside, placing their needs above yours. You begin to lose sight of your own path, your individuality, and your purpose. What was once a vibrant field of possibilities now feels like a narrow orbit, limiting your movement, your growth, and your potential. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." There's a profound truth in this statement that we often overlook. Living in harmony with yourself means staying true to your values, your dreams, and your path. It means nurturing your individuality and not losing yourself in someone else's life. But when you become overly dependent on someone else, that harmony is disrupted. You start to feel out of sync, disconnected from the universe, because you're no longer living your life, you're living someone else's. Imagine a scenario where you've poured so much of your time, energy, and emotions into someone that you no longer recognize your own reflection. You've become a shadow of yourself, a mere echo of who you used to be. Your goals, once clear and motivating, are now distant memories. Your passions, the things that once made you come alive, are now dulled by the constant focus on another person's needs. This is what happens when you allow someone else to become the center of your universe. Your light dims, your energy wanes, and you start to lose your sense of self. Let us share a story with you. There was once a woman named Clara, who was an artist. Her paintings were vibrant and full of life, reflecting the joy and freedom she felt within. But then, Clara fell in love with a man who seemed to need her more than anything else in the world. He was charming, yes, but he was also demanding, constantly requiring her attention, her time, and her energy. Clara, in her love for him, began to neglect her art. She spent less time in her studio and more time catering to his needs, believing that her sacrifice was a sign of true love. As the months went by, Clara's world began to shrink. She stopped painting altogether, her once vibrant studio now filled with dust and forgotten brushes. Her friends noticed the change in her. They saw how she had lost her spark, her joy, and her sense of purpose. But Clara was too entangled in her partner's life to see what was happening to her. She had become a satellite, trapped in his orbit, losing sight of her own path. One day, a close friend of Clara's visited her. Seeing the state of Clara's life, she gently reminded her of the artist she used to be, of the joy she once found in her paintings. This friend, in a moment of quiet reflection, shared with Clara the words of Marcus Aurelius: "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." These words struck a chord deep within Clara. She realized that she had lost herself, not just in her partner's life, but in her own. Clara began to make changes. She started spending time in her studio again, reconnecting with her art, her passion. It wasn't easy. Breaking free from the orbit she had been caught in took time and effort. But slowly, she began to reclaim her life, her individuality. She started painting again, and with each stroke of the brush, she felt herself coming back to life. Her world expanded once more, the vibrant field of possibilities returning as she found her way back to herself. You see, the story of Clara is not unique. Many of us have been in situations where we've allowed someone else's needs to overshadow our own. We've all experienced moments where we've lost sight of our path, our dreams, because we've become too focused on someone else. But the good news is that it's never too late to reclaim your life, to break free from the orbit of dependency and rediscover your own light. It's important to remember that your life is not a support act for someone else's show. You are not here to play a secondary role in someone else's story. Your life is your own, and you are the headline act. You have your own journey to walk, your own dreams to pursue, and your own light to shine. Don't allow anyone to dim that light or take you away from your path. You have the power to create a life that is true to you, one that is in harmony with your own values, goals, and aspirations. Also consider the wisdom of not allowing anyone to dictate the terms of your happiness or success. When you place your happiness in someone else's hands, you give them control over your life. But your happiness, your fulfillment, is your responsibility. It's something you cultivate from within, not something you hand over to someone else to manage. Take a step back and ask yourself, are you living your life in harmony with who you are? Or have you become a satellite, revolving around someone else's world? If you find yourself in the latter situation, it's time to make a change. It's time to break free from the orbit of dependency, to reclaim your individuality, and to shine your own light. Your life is too precious to be spent living in someone else's shadow. Embrace your journey, follow your path, and live in harmony with yourself. When you do, you'll find that the universe aligns with you, and the possibilities before you are endless. Second, don't destroy your own life by becoming overly dependent on someone else. Allowing your life to revolve around someone else is like a satellite trapped in orbit. You lose sight of your own goals and individuality. When you focus too much on another person, your aspirations fade, and their needs overshadow yours. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that he who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe. Obsessing over someone disrupts your harmony and diminishes your light. It's time to shine your own sun, break free from their orbit, and light up your own path. Your life is not a support act for someone else's show. You are the headline act in your own story. Second, don't reveal everything about your past. Sharing every detail of your past with someone is like giving them a map to all your hidden treasures and vulnerabilities. Your past, especially the darker parts, is sacred and personal. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "When we are tired, we are attacked by ideas we conquered long ago." By revealing all your secrets, you make yourself vulnerable to attack and exploitation. Keep your secrets guarded and share only what's necessary. Your past is your story, your power, and your shield. Don't hand it over to someone else. It is about something important, something that might seem simple but holds tremendous power in shaping how others perceive you and, more importantly, how you perceive yourself. Imagine your past as a vast landscape, filled with both breathtaking vistas and shadowy corners. It's a place where you've journeyed, learned, and grown, but it's also a place that holds your deepest vulnerabilities. When you share every detail of this landscape with someone, you're not just telling them a story, you're handing them the keys to your most guarded places. This isn't about hiding who you are, it's about understanding the value of discretion and the strength that comes from knowing which parts of your past are yours to keep. Now, think about the power of mystery. There's a reason why people are drawn to it. When you don't reveal everything, you create an aura that invites curiosity, respect, and even a bit of admiration. It's not about being secretive, it's about being wise. When you keep certain aspects of your past to yourself, you maintain control over your narrative. You decide what others see, what they know, and what they can never use against you. Nietzsche wisely pointed out that when we are tired, we are attacked by ideas we conquered long ago. This is especially true when those ideas are handed to someone else, unguarded, without consideration of the consequences. Consider the times when you've shared too much, perhaps in moments of vulnerability or trust. Did it bring you closer to someone, or did it leave you feeling exposed? We often think that revealing everything will create intimacy, but the truth is, it can sometimes do the opposite. It can make you feel naked, with nothing left to protect you from judgment or exploitation. There's a reason why we all have a past. It's our personal history, and like any history, it has its victories and its defeats. Sharing every battle, every scar, can leave you open to wounds that have long since healed. But let's be clear, this isn't about building walls around yourself or living in constant fear of betrayal. It's about balance. It's about recognizing that some parts of your past are lessons that have shaped who you are, while others are experiences that need to remain in the shadows, protected and cherished. Your past is not just a series of events, it's the foundation of your character, your strength, and your wisdom. To give it away carelessly is to give away a piece of yourself that you might never get back. Think of your past as a shield. It's something that protects you, something that gives you strength. When you share only what's necessary, you keep that shield intact. You don't need to prove your worth by laying all your cards on the table. People will respect you more when they see that you value your experiences, that you understand the importance of what you've been through. They will sense that there's more to you than meets the eye, and that's where true respect and admiration begin. Finally, let us remember that not everyone deserves to know your story in its entirety. Your past is a treasure trove of lessons learned and battles fought. It's your story to tell, but only to those who have earned the right to hear it. By keeping certain details to yourself, you're not only protecting your vulnerabilities but also preserving the sanctity of your journey. You are the guardian of your own experiences, and with that role comes the responsibility to choose wisely what you share and what you keep close to your heart. So, as we move forward in this conversation, take a moment to reflect on the power of what you keep to yourself. Understand that your past, especially the darker parts, is not something to be given away lightly. It's your strength, your story, your shield. Guard it with the care it deserves, and you'll find that you not only protect yourself but also command a deeper level of respect and trust from those around you. Next, don't stop living your own life. Altering your life to fit into someone else's is like wearing shoes that don't fit. They're painful, unnecessary, and slow you down. When you constantly shift your life to align with someone else's needs, you lose your own direction and rhythm. As Seneca wisely said, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. It's time to stop trying to be everything for someone else and start embracing your own path. Live your life unapologetically and on your terms, because your life isn't a compromise or a bargain, it's your epic journey. Let us take a moment to reflect on something that might seem straightforward but carries deep significance: the idea of living your own life without constantly bending to accommodate someone else's desires or expectations. Picture this: you're on a journey through a vast, open landscape. The horizon stretches endlessly before you, full of promise and potential. Each step you take is purposeful, leading you closer to your own goals, your own dreams. But then, someone else enters the picture, asking you to stray from your path, to follow theirs instead. You hesitate, unsure, and before you know it, you've veered off course, lost in a direction that was never meant for you. This is what happens when you start altering your life to fit someone else's mold. You lose sight of your own destination. Seneca, a wise philosopher, once said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." Think about that for a moment. When you spread yourself too thin, trying to meet the needs and expectations of others, you end up losing your own identity, your own sense of direction. It's like trying to water too many plants with a single cup. You end up with nothing left for yourself, and none of the plants truly thrive. The same goes for your life. When you sacrifice your own needs to fulfill someone else's, you end up drained, empty, with nothing left to give. Consider the metaphor of a musician composing a symphony. Each note, each melody, is a reflection of the musician's inner world, the unique expression of their creativity. Now imagine if that musician suddenly started playing someone else's tune, notes that don't resonate with their own style. The music would lose its soul, its originality, becoming a mere echo of someone else's vision. This is what happens when you abandon your own rhythm to march to someone else's beat. You lose the essence of what makes your life your own, and in doing so, you sacrifice the harmony that comes from living authentically. Life, my friend, is your journey, your adventure. It's like wearing a pair of shoes. When they fit well, every step is comfortable, natural, and takes you closer to where you want to be. But if you try to wear shoes that don't fit, too tight, too loose, every step becomes a struggle, a painful reminder that you're not living in alignment with who you are. When you try to fit your life into someone else's expectations, you're essentially walking in shoes that weren't made for you. And just like those ill-fitting shoes, living this way will eventually wear you down, leaving you tired, frustrated, and far from where you truly want to be. Let's talk about balance. Imagine you're a tightrope walker, high above the ground, every step calculated, every movement precise. Now, imagine if you had to adjust your steps constantly to match someone else walking beside you. The balance you once had would falter, and soon, you'd find yourself teetering on the edge, struggling to stay on the rope. That's exactly what happens when you continuously alter your life to suit someone else's needs. You lose your equilibrium, your center, and before you know it, you're off balance, with no clear sense of who you are or where you're going. Living unapologetically isn't about being self-centered, it's about being centered in yourself. It's about understanding that your life is not a series of compromises but a journey that's uniquely yours. Think of an artist with a blank canvas, each brushstroke deliberate, each color chosen with care. Now, what if that artist allowed someone else to dictate where to place each stroke, which colors to use? The canvas would no longer be a reflection of the artist's vision, but a jumbled mix of ideas that don't quite fit together. Your life is much like that canvas. Every decision you make is a brushstroke on the masterpiece of your existence. make sure those strokes are your own, guided by your vision, not someone else's. Direction is vital. If you're constantly changing your path to meet someone else's expectations, you'll find yourself lost, wandering without purpose. Picture this: you're driving down a road, headed toward a destination you've been looking forward to. But every few minutes, someone tells you to take a different turn. Soon, you're not sure where you are or where you're going. You've lost the sense of direction that once guided you. That's what happens when you live your life for someone else. You become like a ship without a rudder, drifting aimlessly, at the mercy of the winds. But when you set your own course, when you steer your own ship, you move forward with intention, with confidence, knowing that you're headed toward your true destination. There's a profound freedom that comes from living life on your own terms. It's like standing on the edge of a vast cliff, not with fear, but with a deep sense of awe at the endless possibilities that lie before you. When you stop trying to fit into someone else's shoes, you discover the joy of walking your own path, of feeling the ground beneath your feet that was meant just for you. It's liberating, exhilarating, and incredibly empowering to realize that your journey is yours to shape, yours to define. This doesn't mean you should isolate yourself or refuse to adjust for others. On the contrary, it means bringing your full self into your relationships, without losing the essence of who you are. Picture a mighty tree, deeply rooted in the earth. The tree doesn't change its roots for the wind that blows or the rain that falls. It stands tall and firm, grounded in its own strength, yet it sways and bends with the elements, resilient and unyielding. That's how you should live, anchored in your own identity, yet flexible enough to engage with others without compromising your true self. You might worry about disappointing others or letting them down by choosing to live life on your own terms. But here's the thing: living authentically doesn't mean you never make adjustments for others. It means those adjustments don't compromise who you are at your core. Think of a bridge. It's designed to carry weight, but if it's overloaded, it will eventually collapse. The same goes for you. You can support and help others, but not at the expense of your own stability. You must ensure that the weight you carry is manageable, so you don't crumble under the pressure of trying to be everything for everyone. On this journey, you'll encounter people who may not understand or appreciate your decision to live life on your own terms. They might try to pull you back into the path they believe is right for you. But remember, this is your journey, not theirs. Imagine a river, flowing freely, carving its own path through the landscape. There are obstacles, rocks, twists, and turns, but the river continues to flow, forging ahead with determination. Your life should be like that river, unstoppable, always moving forward toward your goals and dreams, despite the challenges you may face. Living unapologetically means embracing your unique story, recognizing that your life is not something to be bargained away for someone else's approval. It's an epic tale that you get to write, chapter by chapter, with every decision, every action, and every moment of courage. Think of yourself as the protagonist of your own story. Protagonists don't compromise their values or their path to please others. They inspire others to find their own way. That's the kind of life you're meant to live, one that inspires, that shines brightly, and that is unapologetically your own. So, don't stop living your own life. Don't try to squeeze yourself into someone else's shoes. Your path, your journey, your life, these are yours and yours alone. Embrace it fully, live it boldly, and most importantly, live it unapologetically. Because at the end of the day, the only person who truly knows where you're meant to go, the only person who can walk your path with purpose and conviction, is you. And when you do that, when you live your life with confidence and clarity, you won't just leave behind a life, you'll leave behind a legacy. Fourth, don't cut off your friends or family to please someone else. Isolating yourself from those who have supported you is like cutting off the branches of your own support tree. Friends and family are the roots that hold you up, and when you sever those connections, you destroy your own support system. Plato once said, "People are like dirt, they can either nourish you and help you grow or stunt your growth and make you wilt and die." Don't let someone else dictate your relationships or make you feel like you have to choose between them and your support network. Reconnect with those who've always stood by you, and remember that your friends and family are irreplaceable. Imagine for a moment a tree that has grown strong and tall, its branches reaching towards the sky. This tree is a symbol of your life, your aspirations, and your growth. Now, consider what happens when you begin to cut off those branches, the very parts of the tree that give it balance and strength. Without these branches, the tree becomes vulnerable, unstable, and eventually, it may topple over. The same applies to your relationships. Cutting off friends or family to please someone else is like stripping away the very things that help you stand tall and resilient. You might think of a time when you felt pressured to choose between a new relationship and your long-standing friendships. It's a common scenario. Someone new comes into your life, and suddenly, the people who have always been there seem less important. But let us tell you a story of a man named Alex. Alex was a man who prided himself on his independence. He believed he could handle anything life threw at him. But when he fell in love with someone new, he started to distance himself from his friends and family. At first, it felt exhilarating. He was wrapped up in this new relationship, feeling as though he didn't need anyone else. But as time went on, he began to feel isolated. His old friends weren't calling as much, and family gatherings felt awkward. The new relationship that had seemed so fulfilling now felt stifling. Alex had severed the branches of his support tree, and he felt the weight of his decision. The Stoics teach us that wisdom is recognizing what is within our control and what is not. In Alex's case, he thought he could control his happiness by focusing solely on one person. But happiness isn't about isolation, it's about balance. It's about nurturing all the relationships that contribute to our well-being. When Alex finally realized this, it was almost too late. He reached out to his old friends and family, and while some welcomed him back with open arms, others had moved on. The damage had been done, and Alex learned a hard lesson about the importance of maintaining those connections. Now, let's take this lesson and apply it to your life. Think about your own support system. Who are the people that have been there for you through thick and thin? They are the roots that hold you up when the storms of life try to knock you down. And like any strong tree, your roots need nourishment. They need to be cared for and appreciated, not abandoned. You may find yourself in situations where you feel the pressure to prioritize one relationship over others. Perhaps it's a romantic relationship, or maybe it's a demanding job. But remember, true Stoic wisdom lies in finding balance. It's not about cutting off one branch to strengthen another, it's about ensuring that all the branches are healthy and supported. Let us share another story, this time about a woman named Clara. Clara was deeply involved in her career. She was ambitious and driven, and her work consumed most of her time. Over the years, she gradually lost touch with her friends and became distant from her family. She told herself that it was a necessary sacrifice for success. But success came at a price. When Clara faced a personal crisis, she realized she had no one to turn to. The people who once supported her were no longer in her life, and she felt alone. Clara's story is a powerful reminder that no amount of success can replace the value of genuine connections. Like Alex, she learned that isolating herself from those who cared about her was not the path to fulfillment. She had cut off her branches, and without them, she struggled to stay grounded. We've all been in situations where we've had to make difficult choices about relationships. But the key is not to sever ties impulsively. Take a step back and consider the bigger picture. Your friends and family are your roots, and they deserve your attention and care. In psychology, we often talk about the importance of a support system. A strong support system can help you navigate life's challenges with resilience and grace. It provides emotional, psychological, and even physical support when you need it most. Without this network, you may find yourself feeling lost and overwhelmed. The Stoics understood this well. They recognized that humans are social creatures, and our connections with others are vital to our well-being. It's not about dependence, it's about interdependence. It's about recognizing that we are stronger together than we are alone. So, the next time you find yourself faced with a choice between pleasing someone else and maintaining your relationships, remember the tree. Remember that your branches and roots are what keep you standing tall. Don't cut them off. Instead, nurture them, and you'll find that your life becomes richer, more balanced, and more fulfilling. And if you ever feel the temptation to isolate yourself, pause and reflect. Ask yourself if it's worth losing the support system that has carried you through so much. Often, the answer will be clear. You'll realize that the people who have been there for you deserve your loyalty and care, just as you deserve theirs. In the end, life is about balance. It's about finding harmony between your individual pursuits and your relationships. The Stoics remind us that we can't do it all alone, and we shouldn't try. Instead, we should cultivate and cherish the connections that make us who we are. After all, our friends and family are irreplaceable. Fifth, stop spending too much time on someone who doesn't value it. Pouring all your time into someone else is like throwing your most precious resource into a bottomless pit. Every minute you spend obsessing over them is a piece of your life you'll never get back. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Reclaim your time and invest it in things that bring you growth, joy, and fulfillment. Remember, your time is yours, not theirs. Don't let it slip away for someone who doesn't appreciate it. Something profoundly important, something that often slips through our fingers unnoticed, the time we give to others. Imagine, if you will, standing on the edge of a vast, endless ocean. In your hand, you hold a handful of diamonds, each one gleaming with the light of 1,000 suns. These diamonds are your moments, the very essence of your life. Now, picture yourself tossing these priceless gems into the waves, one by one, for someone who doesn't even care to catch them, someone who doesn't recognize their value. This is what happens when we devote too much of our time to someone who does not appreciate it. Every second you spend obsessing over them, every hour you give away, is a precious gem lost to the depths, never to be reclaimed. Seneca, a wise philosopher who lived centuries ago, once remarked, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." His words resonate through the ages, a timeless reminder of the choices we make with our time. We often find ourselves lamenting the lack of time, yet perhaps the real issue is not the scarcity of time but the way we allow it to slip through our hands. Consider those countless hours spent waiting for a response, those sleepless nights spent replaying conversations in your mind, or the days lost in the futile effort to win the approval of someone who barely notices. This isn't just about time lost, it's about the energy drained, the emotions spent, and the potential squandered. What could have been if that time was used differently? What new skills could you have mastered? What joys could you have experienced? What achievements could you have reached? We must recognize that our time is one of our most valuable assets, it belongs solely to us. When you invest your time in someone who does not value it, you are giving away a piece of your life that you can never retrieve. This isn't a matter of selfishness, it's about self-worth. If someone doesn't cherish your time, they do not truly cherish you. And if they do not truly cherish you, then they are not deserving of the minutes, the hours, or the days that you so freely give. There is a vital insight here: reclaim your time. Take it back from those who would squander it. Redirect it into yourself, into your own growth, into pursuits that bring you joy and fulfillment. Time spent on your passions, your dreams, your well-being is time well spent. It is an investment in a future that promises growth, happiness, and personal achievement. Imagine how much richer your life would be if all that time you once gave away was now dedicated to something meaningful, something that nourishes your soul instead of draining it. We must accept that not everyone will appreciate the time we offer, and that's perfectly fine. However, it is our duty to determine where our time is best spent. We cannot control how others treat us, but we have absolute control over our response. And sometimes, the wisest course of action is to step back, to stop giving our time to those who don't recognize its value. This isn't about harboring bitterness or resentment, it's about cultivating wisdom. It's about understanding that your time is far too precious to be wasted on someone who does not see its true worth. So, let's make a conscious decision today, to be more mindful of how we spend our time, to protect it as the invaluable treasure that it is. Let's choose to invest our moments in people and activities that uplift us, that inspire us, that bring genuine value into our lives. Life is fleeting, not because of its length, but because of how effortlessly time slips away when we're not vigilant. Let's remain vigilant, let's take charge, and let's ensure that every moment we spend is one that enriches our lives. In the grand scheme of things, the way we allocate our time is the way we shape our existence. Ensure that your life is not spent on someone who doesn't appreciate it. Instead, pour your time into yourself, into your passions, into those who genuinely value you. This is the path to a life filled with purpose, satisfaction, and true happiness. And never forget, your time is your most cherished resource. Don't let it drift away unnoticed, unappreciated, or unvalued. Seize it, cherish it, and make it count. And the last one, let nothing compromise your mental health and happiness. Sacrificing your well-being for someone else's sake is like setting your house on fire to keep them warm. It's self-destructive and pointless. When you neglect your happiness to please someone else, you end up in ashes while they enjoy the warmth. Aristotle wisely stated, happiness depends upon ourselves. If you sacrifice your mental peace for someone else's happiness, you're betraying yourself. Take back control of your happiness and mental health, they are non-negotiable. Stop being a martyr in someone else's story and become the hero in your own. Guard your peace and joy fiercely, and never let anyone steal your happiness. Have you ever found yourself wondering, what does it truly mean to protect your peace and mental well-being as if your very life depended on it? Because, in reality, it does. Picture this, your mind is like a sacred sanctuary, and within its walls lie your peace and joy, your most precious treasures. Yet, how often do we unknowingly leave the gates wide open, allowing others to walk in and take what they want? We might believe we're being generous, perhaps even selfless, but what happens when we give so much of ourselves that there's nothing left? It's time to ask, are you really helping others, or are you just setting yourself on fire to keep them warm? Let's delve into a story, a narrative that speaks to this very issue. There was once a man named Marcus, a farmer of humble means who lived by the edge of a vast forest. His life was simple, his needs few, and in this simplicity, he found contentment. Yet, Marcus had a neighbor, Lucius, who was perpetually in need. Lucius would come by, asking for tools, food, advice, whatever he could to lighten his own burdens. And Marcus, with his generous heart, always obliged. At first, it was just small things, a tool here, a loaf of bread there. But as time passed, Lucius's demands grew. He began to ask for more, even requesting that Marcus do his work for him while he rested. Marcus, determined to be a good neighbor, continued to sacrifice his own time and resources to help Lucius. But this constant giving came at a cost. His own farm began to suffer, his crops started to fail, and his health began to decline from the endless toil. Yet, whenever Lucius appeared with another request, Marcus would set aside his own needs, thinking, "I can endure a little longer for his sake." But then came the day when Marcus had nothing left to give. His farm was in disrepair, his body was exhausted, and his spirit was crushed under the weight of his sacrifices. And Lucius? Seeing that Marcus had no more to offer, he simply moved on to another neighbor, leaving Marcus alone amidst the ruins of his once thriving life. Marcus had burned himself out to keep Lucius warm, and now all that remained were the charred remains of his sacrifices. Now, reflect on this story. Was Marcus truly helping Lucius, or was he simply enabling his neighbor's dependency while destroying himself in the process? The lesson here is clear. While it is noble to assist others, it should never come at the expense of your own well-being. There is a fine line between helping and enabling, between being compassionate and being self-destructive. When you sacrifice your mental peace and happiness for someone else's comfort, you aren't just harming yourself, you're also depriving them of the opportunity to grow stronger, to learn resilience, and to stand on their own. Allow me to share another story. There once lived a wise philosopher named Epictetus, who was born into slavery but found true freedom in his mind. Epictetus was known for his teachings on inner strength and self-mastery. One day, a student came to him, lamenting that his life was filled with stress because he was constantly trying to make everyone around him happy. Epictetus listened carefully and then asked, "If you spend all your time trying to satisfy others, when do you have time to find peace within yourself?" The student fell silent, suddenly realizing that in his pursuit to please others, he had neglected the most important relationship, the one with himself. This brings us to a fundamental Stoic principle: your peace and joy are your most valuable possessions, and they are yours to protect. Just as you wouldn't leave your front door open at night, you shouldn't leave your mind exposed to the demands and negativity of others. It's not selfish to prioritize your mental well-being, it's a necessity. Remember Aristotle's wisdom: happiness depends upon ourselves. If you depend on others for your happiness, you're handing them the keys to your fortress. But when you understand that your happiness is rooted in your own choices, mindset, and actions, you reclaim your sovereignty. Let's revisit Marcus for a moment. Imagine if, instead of continuously giving in to Lucius's demands, he had established boundaries. Perhaps he could have guided Lucius to become more self-sufficient, or simply said, "I've done all I can, now it's up to you." In doing so, Marcus's farm might have flourished, his health might have remained robust, and Lucius might have learned to stand on his own 2 feet. Marcus could have remained the hero of his own story, rather than becoming a casualty in Lucius's. Now it's time to take action. Start today by declaring that you will no longer do these things, and commit to becoming the best version of yourself at any cost. Leave a comment below with your promise, and we'll feature the most inspiring comment on our channel. Don't forget to subscribe for your daily dose of unfiltered and uncensored wisdom. Thank you, and see you in the next video.